Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, we're talking about my top 10 tips going into the 2019 fantasy football season. Now, before we begin today's video, let me remind all of you, if you haven't yet already, click that subscribe button because this channel is going to be the hub for fantasy football content through the entirety of the 2019 season. For the next 4+ months, we're going to be talking fantasy football exclusively here, whether it's waiver wires, running back, starts or sits, etc., hidden gems for those of you who were around last season, live streams, etc. So click that subscribe button, join the community. If you haven't yet, click that notification bell to know when my latest content is out. Also, quick reminder, Patreon of mine has been launched a couple weeks back. The link is down in the description for those of you who are interested in supporting. Go check that out. Much appreciated, whether you support it or not. As long as you take the time out of your day to check it out, that's all I ask. So thank you very much, guys. Okay, so we're talking about my top 10 tips. And plain and simple, we all, by the end of the 2019 season, want to look like Bill Belichick to my left. We all want to be hoisting our league trophies over our heads, whether it's a cash prize, an actual trophy, whether it's bragging rights. We want to be champions by the end of the 2019 season. Whether you play in one league or you play in 50 leagues, you want to win. And this, in my opinion, these 10 tips are going to help you get there. Now, for those of you who have been playing fantasy football for the last 10+ years, sure, some of these tips you're familiar with, but for those of you who are newer to the community and haven't had as much experience, a lot of these tips are going to help you. And even those of you who have played a lot, some of these tips may be a little bit eye-opening and will lead you in the right direction to help you capture a fantasy championship in 2019. Because that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to help you guys win. I want to win. You guys want to win. We're here for the same goal. And hopefully we can achieve that this coming year. So let's talk about my top 10 tips in no particular order, but I kind of scheduled it to the point where they're relevant to one another. Obviously, everything in fantasy football is relevant. There's a bunch of variables, but in this order, number one, just like what we've been doing for this entire offseason, it has to do with our drafts. Whether you, again, play in one league or 50 leagues, the draft can be extremely time-consuming. Whether it's just learning ADPs, whether it's learning by doing mock drafts, stuff like that. The draft itself, it's extremely important, but you have to remember that no matter what happens by the end of the draft day, the team that you have by the end of the draft is not going to win you the league. Let's be honest. Fantasy football, yes, the NFL season's 17 weeks, but typically you're supposed to play in a 16-week season. Now, really quickly, that's like tip 0.5. Make sure that you do not have a league that plays 17 weeks, because if your fantasy championship is in week 17, this isn't even on the list, I just remember this. If your fantasy championship is in week 17, there are going to be players that are not going to play because they've already clinched the playoffs, and that could potentially hurt you. So tip 0.5, before we even get to number one, it is make sure your league and your commissioner has it so where your playoffs or weeks 14, 15, and 16. Okay? We're good there. Okay? Remember, there's 17 weeks in the NFL season. Okay? Everybody has a bye week. Okay, that's that. Now let's talk about tip number one. We're back on track. Tip number one is the team that you draft on draft day is not going to win you the league. You have to understand that in the entire process, that 16-week process, 4 months, right? Your team is going to transform. Whether it's players getting injured and being dropped off your roster, it's players not performing, potentially trades occurring, waiver wire pickups. Your team, by the day that you draft it, by the end of the season, is going to look completely different. Now, if you have the identical looking team, you are either the luckiest person or the laziest person. I don't know which one it is, but you'll know by your record. If you're 12-0 rather than 0-12, that'll kind of be the determining factor. But you have to understand that, yes, the draft is extremely important, but you can't win your league by drafting a good team. Yes, it's going to help you in the process, but that's not the only factor in winning your league because there are so many other variables during the entirety of the season. Sure, having a solid base in the beginning is a fantastic start. You may start a little bit higher than others, but overall, there's a process to get to the championship. And a draft may be one of them, but it's not the only factor that's going to help you win your league. So understand that, yes, your draft, it matters, but don't put all the eggs in that simple basket of just that simple draft, okay? Moving on. Let's talk about tip number 2, research. Like I was mentioning earlier, ADPs, doing mock drafts, things like this are actions that you should probably be taking this offseason. For those of you who are going to be playing or going to be drafting this coming weekend, I've done many mock drafts on my channel, and I've shown you the websites where you can go to even mock draft against people live. There are many options throughout the entire industry to do so, so I would 100% tell you to take advantage of that. Do your own research. Now, if you don't have time, you work 80 hours a week, sure. Andrew's done the research for you during the offseason. That's what these videos are here. That's why I created a 2019 fantasy football draft guide over at my Patreon or PayPal. Link is in the description. There you go. Understand that you have to do your own research, right? Sure, you might not have time, but understanding ADPs, understanding how the industry and the landscape looks depending on who's going in what round, that is extremely essential going into the 2019 season. Understanding that you shouldn't be taking quarterbacks early in 1 QB leagues, that you shouldn't draft kickers and defenses to the last 2 rounds, or potentially even never draft a kicker or defense. Grab handcuffs. Things like this is the research that you have to take into account that is going to be on you. Whether you draft, pick up somebody else's draft kit, pick up mine. Make sure you do the research so that when draft day comes and when the season commences, that you at least have a solid base of knowledge in the entire landscape so you understand what's going on. So do your research. That's number 2. All right, moving on to number 3. Know your league rules. Now, point 5 had to do with league rules, right? But it's extremely important that we know that you for sure do not play a fantasy championship game in week 17. Other than that, know your waiver wire rules. Is it fab? Are you spending money? Are you doing those blind bids in order to pick up free agents off the waiver wire? On top of that, is it a continual rolling list? Where exactly do you have priority on your waiver wire? Knowing your league scoring format, whether it's half, full, the extra bonus points that are potentially hiding. Your commissioner could be somebody that's just, randomly putting stuff together. Understand how many points each player gets and just how valuable they can be. Because if your kicker, gets, -3 for missing a field goal, that's something that you should take into account. If defenses lose, if opposing teams score points on your defense and they make you have negative points, maybe sometimes don't even start a defense. Understanding your league rules, knowing when your league's trade deadline is. These are important things. Understanding, hey, who's vetoing or saying yes or no on trades? Is it the commissioner alone or is it the entire league? Understanding this kind of stuff will help you through the 2019 season. So know your league rules. Make sure everything is settled so that you can go about it the proper way. All right, moving on to number 4. Now that we've kind of settled through that, this kind of goes back towards the draft. Understanding the running back position. Running backs rule fantasy football, especially in 1 quarterback leagues, which nearly 70% of people play in the landscape. So as of right now, understand that the running back position, yes, they may come off the board early and often, but you can never have too many running backs on your roster. There is so much talent at the running back position, and the running back position determines so much because nobody else in the entire landscape of fantasy football gets as much opportunity. There are running backs that are going to touch the ball almost 400 times a season, comparatively to the best wide receiver who catches the ball 115 times. There is a huge discrepancy there. Running backs are the blue chip players in fantasy football. Yes, there are players in PPR, wide receivers, that are just as valuable and are putting up almost just as many points. But understand that running backs, whether they're top tier guys or middle or lower tier, it's never a bad idea to have a lot of running backs on roster. You can never have too many, whether they're handcuffs or whether they're guys that are potential upsides because of injuries or something of that sort. Just make sure that you stock your roster with as many running backs as you can. Yes, I'm not saying, guys, go ahead and your entire bench should be running backs. No, that's not the case. I'm just telling you, sure, if you've got 2 running backs starting, a running back at your flex, having another 3 running backs on your bench out of an 8-man bench is not a bad idea. Having 6 running backs on roster ensures that if somebody gets injured, you have replacements. And on top of that, who doesn't want to have more running backs? They're so damn good. You can even trade them later in the season if they end up blowing up and you don't even need them. Running backs are a huge commodity in fantasy football, and the draft capital of some of these guys they go pretty expensively. But as of right now, understand that you can never have too many running backs on your roster. All right, moving on. Speaking of the running back position, handcuffs. I've mentioned handcuffs many times in the past. Handcuffs are typically for the running back position. They are backups for your stud blue chip running backs or even your middle tier running backs that are your starters. Now, what is a handcuff? It is a player that if in fact your blue chip player is to get injured, this is their immediate backup that is going to be absorbing the entire or partial amount of fantasy in or output or production from that position. For example, Ezekiel Elliott, he hasn't signed, sure, but Tony Pollard is his handcuff. Understanding handcuffs is essential. Melvin Gordon, he hasn't signed either, or he hasn't at least shown up. Okay, they offered him a new contract. We'll see what happens. But understanding that Austin Eckler is his handcuff and Justin Jackson exists as a handcuff is important. Guys, here's a list. Understand your blue chip running backs handcuff. David Johnson, sure, he goes in the first round, but understand that you need to have Chase Edmonds on your roster in order to make sure that, hey, if David Johnson gets hurt, tears an ACL in the first play of the game, I can't completely lose my league because he goes down. At least I have the guy that is going to be absorbing that fantasy value from then on out. Also, understanding what kind of value handcuffs have. There are handcuffs in the NFL that get significant time on the field. Matt Breida, Tariq Cohen, James White, Austin Eckler. These are guys that are going to be contributors. Royce Freeman, Rashad Penny, Latavius Murray. There are running backs in the NFL that even may be handcuffs. Deion Lewis. There are going to be running backs in the NFL that, yes, they are handcuffs. They are the immediate backup, but they get significant playing time, and these guys have even more value in fantasy football. So understanding that and their value specifically, when they go in drafts, why you would rather tag or group together an Alvin Kamara and make sure you get Latavius Murray. Because Latavius Murray, yes, at his current ADP, is not going to hurt you because he's going to have production. Understanding that. So handcuffs, extremely important. And I know for many of you who play in smaller leagues that have only 6 bench slots and don't even have an injured reserve spot, it's difficult to gather all of your handcuffs. But before the season starts, I would 100% suggest grabbing your handcuffs rather than a kicker or a defense right now in case, because you never know. A guy like Lamar Miller, one play and his entire season is over. Stuff like that has happened in the past. Spencer Ware a couple years back went down with an injury. Kareem Hunt took over with the Kansas City Chiefs, never looked back. Grabbing handcuffs is extremely essential in fantasy football. I just wanted to go ahead and point that out. Moving on. Oh, that's for later. You'll see that in a little bit. All right, moving on. That was number 5. Let's move on to number 6. Similar to handcuffs is rookies. A lot of handcuffs in the National Football League or in fantasy football specifically are handcuffs. But rookies, I think I messed that up. The whole point is understand and familiarize yourself with rookie running backs and wide receivers. Now, understand that there are guys like Saquon Barkley who came out last season and was what? His ADP, he was like the 7th pick in the first round, 6th or 7th pick. And he ended up being the number 2 running back, or at least high up there. Todd Gurley obviously ran it, and then Christian McCaffrey was up there for a PPR. But still, rookie running backs, they can have value. Each of the last 3 seasons, there have been at least one rookie running back in the top 3 at the end of the season for fantasy football. Think about it. In 2016, Ezekiel Elliott was a top 3 running back. In 2017, Alvin Kamara was a top 3 running back. In 2018, Saquon Barkley was a top 3 running back. So understanding the rookie running backs, sure, I have a video on it. And if you want, you can go check that out. David Montgomery, Josh Jacobs, guys like this that are immediate starters for their teams right now, they're going to have value. Familiarizing yourself with them is extremely essential because a lot of people in your league may not be familiar with rookie running backs and not know exactly what kind of value, what kind of opportunity they're going to walk into and potentially have in 2019. On top of that, rookies, don't fall in love with too many, okay? Rookies are there, yes, as potential future plays, but they can also burn you. I don't want to see rosters that have literally 3 rookie running backs. Sure, they could be handcuffs, but if you have Alexander Mattison, Darwin Thompson, and who's another rookie running back, and Damian Harris all on your bench, wow. you're risking a lot, because then you're starting to play for the future rather than play for right now. Sure, in week 1, you have an insurance policy, but after the next couple weeks go and your bench starts to get a little bit thin, maybe you get hit with an injury, bye weeks start to begin, those players aren't going to be able to contribute if they don't get that starting job immediately. So don't fall in love with the rookies too much, especially rookie wide receivers. I had a video on that. They're typically always garbage. Just remember that, okay? Moving on. Number 7. I mentioned this earlier, but in a different term or in a different sense. Don't put all of your eggs in one basket. Now, what exactly does that mean? I don't want to have 3 players from a specific team on my roster. Now, let's say, for example, Andrew has Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Tyreek Hill all on my starting roster, which is 100% possible. You can grab one in the first, second, and then Patrick Mahomes in the third. Easily can be done. You can easily do that. But in my opinion, if you go ahead and, let's be honest, I don't think anybody's doing that strategy, but I'm sure somebody has a team like that. If you're going to do that strategy with a team like that, sure. But I don't want to see, you have Sony Michel, Julian Edelman, and James White all on your roster. That's too many eggs in the Patriots basket. I don't want to see a roster with Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, and Geronimo Allison. Too many eggs in that basket. Sure, they can all have potential, upside this coming year and all produce all in the same week. Personally, I think it's possible, especially with good offenses. But I personally don't like to have too many eggs in one singular basket, because it gets tricky. Because let's say, for example, in that week, Devontae Adams doesn't score a touchdown, and neither does Geronimo Allison. The 4th-string receiver on a trick play got it. Then you're sitting there with a receiver that sure had 100 yards. This other guy had 50 yards, 5 points. Aaron Jones didn't get a rushing touchdown. Then you're starting to get in a little bit of trouble. You can only do that when you're going after premium offenses. Maybe the Rams, maybe the Chiefs, maybe the Falcons at very most with their quarterback. But I don't want to see, I don't like it. I don't know what it is. I just never have liked putting too many eggs in one basket, because that team, you never know. We saw the Jacksonville Jaguars go to the AFC Championship game in 2017. They came back in 2018 and they were complete garbage. You never know how a team in 1 year can shift, and putting your too many eggs in one basket could potentially hurt you and your fantasy roster. All right, moving on to number 8. Don't overthink everything. Here's the thing, okay? Whether it's your draft, whether you're going after safe picks or risky picks, or making decisions during the yearly basis, week to week on starts and sits, don't overthink it. There are many times that I've gotten comments in the comment section, Andrew, who do I start? This guy or this guy? This guy or this guy? And I'll answer you and I'll say, listen, this is my opinion. This is what I believe. And in the last minute, you'll change it, and then you'll switch it back. And then, it's either you somehow won or somehow lost. To be honest, it's not rocket science. We don't need to think about it too much. Anybody can be good at fantasy football. Do not overthink it. Do not, dive too deep into matchups. Don't dive too deep into injuries or specific things like that. Yes, there are many different variables and metrics to determine success in fantasy football, especially for players, but you don't really need to overthink it. Fantasy football is pretty black and white at times, but sure, there's a lot of gray space. But when it's, hey, I got this guy in my flex or this guy in my flex, listen, play the guy that you want. Don't overthink it, and just run with it. Okay, moving on. I'll tag on to that in a little bit. But number 9, okay, that's number 8. We're talking about number 9 here. Another tip that I really like, and something that, to be honest, has helped me in the last couple years, which is incredible. It's the Sleeper app. Okay, now if you haven't downloaded the Sleeper app, this is not an advertisement, but to be honest, Sleeper, please come get me. Okay, I'll advertise as much as you want. To be honest, this thing right here, this thing above me, go to the App Store. It's free, iOS, Android. It's the most incredible thing I literally have ever experienced. It's better than any. I'm not even kidding. The amount of updates that the Sleeper app sends me, wins me so many fantasy football weeks, gets me players on the waiver wire that I have no business grabbing. This thing, if you make sure your notifications are on, will throughout the entirety of the season send you notifications. Hey, this guy got injured at practice. This guy got cut. This guy, is eating McDonald's on the side of the highway. They will tell you everything. This specific app, the Sleeper app, is the one-stop shop for knowing everything. If you don't want to, have to go and do your own research during the season and see what's going on with which players and, be in the know, this app will just send you stuff. It will send you notifications on your phone, and it's ridiculous. I'm telling you, just please go download the Sleeper app. It's incredible. I'm telling you. You will not regret it. It is the one place and the one application on my phone that is used every day, and I look at the notifications. I'm going to literally look at it right now. Okay, let's go to the Sleeper app. And as of right now, okay, we had breaking news from earlier this morning that Jerick McKinnon has another setback, according to the GM, John Lynch, and that it's a real bummer, and he keeps getting to the final step, then keeps getting injured. So right then and there, that's pretty big information, because if I have Jerick McKinnon on my roster, I don't want to touch it because he had another setback. Another piece of information from earlier this morning. Ryder expects Melvin Gordon to be back by week 1. Now, this is speculation, but this could be some, there could be some news behind it. You go click on the link, it'll take you somewhere. Bada boom. I'm telling you guys, Sleeper app, please. Number 9, okay? Moving on to number 10. The last piece of information or tip that I have for you guys to help you get closer to those fantasy championships, help you hoist your fantasy trophy, your prize, your bragging rights over your league mates, is have fun. Like, I'm not kidding. It's literally have fun. Plain and simple. I did this video last year. Not even kidding. I did this video last year, and the same exact thing is my last tip. It's just have fun. We have to understand that fantasy football, sure, we want to be competitive. We're playing for a lot of money, and I know a lot of you. You've messaged me. You play for a lot of money, okay? Understand that the entire point of fantasy football is to have fun. There's an enjoyment aspect of it. Sure, some of you just want to make money off of it or just be competitive on it. But remember, at the end of the day, 1 week, let's say, for example, week 1 comes by and something bogus happens and you end up losing. That is not the end of your season. Just roll with the punches, enjoy it, have fun, and and don't panic. Really, it's a lot of it is don't let fantasy football stress you too much. It's a game, sure. There may be some money on it, but it's a game at the end of the day that are supposed to be enjoyable, that you're supposed to play with your friends and have fun in that way. I know many of you, and I play in my fair share of high stakes leagues, but let's be honest, have fun at the end of the day. Don't stress about it too much, and enjoy fantasy football and enjoy the NFL season. Don't let your NFL season be spoiled because your fantasy team keeps screwing you on a weekly basis. To be honest, in a 12-team league, there's only one winner, okay? Every year, there's only one winner in every league. Sure, you might not end up being that. You may be in last place, second place, fifth place, but just enjoy your experience because, as soon as the fantasy football season's over, we're chomping at the bit to get back, right? So enjoy the experience for the next 4 months. Have a good time and enjoy it. Really, I'm telling you guys, just enjoy it. All right, guys. Those are my top 10 tips going into the 2019 fantasy football season. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, go down to the comment section. Let me know. I'm thinking about doing a live stream the next, maybe I do an impromptu one randomly. But if you've made it this far in the video, then you can go down below and let me know when I should probably live. Maybe later tomorrow, maybe tonight. I don't know. You know what? I'm creeping around on it. Maybe randomly Andrew's going to go live, so just keep your eyes out on that. Thank you everybody for watching. If you like this content, go down below, click that subscribe button, click the like button, and if you haven't already, check out my Patreon page. Until next time, everybody, good luck on your upcoming drafts, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.